Hello, I'm professional wrestler, the gift of Gabby Ortiz, and this is the Fan Views podcast.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Fans View podcast. Today's guest is my white whale. She's my unicorn. She's one of two women that I've been chasing since beginning this podcast, guys. And I can finally say we have a multi-time champion whose passion has taken her from the Monster Factory to the rings of Stardom in Japan. She is Philly's own gift of Gab, Miss Gabby Ortiz. I'm so happy to say, Gabby, how are you doing tonight?
Oh, I'm wonderful and super happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited to have you. Let's just jump into it because your career has just been a whirlwind. You've been everywhere: wrestling, media, traveling. What does life look like for you right now?
Life is a little more quiet right now, but that's by design. I sort of need just a little bit of time. This year, it's been like kind of a tough year, and uh but it's gonna start picking up toward after the holiday season,
For sure.
into the winter and spring. Cool things are in the works.
I love that. I'm super excited for that. Let's rewind a little bit and talk about where this journey started. Obviously, you're a Philly girl through and through. What kind of kid were you before wrestling got into the picture?
I was a I was a little theater kid. I wanted to be, well, I didn't want to be. I performed many times in musical theater, and but I was also a very scared kid. I was quite terrified of things like haunted houses or horror movies. Or like, I mean, and not like in a way that a normal kid is scared. Like, I would be just like hyperventilating, couldn't do it. I was not athletic by any means. Um, I didn't care for anything sort of rough and gruff. I was a girly girl musical theater who was terrified of everything. So it's kind of weird though the turn that my life took.
Yeah, it did a 180 for sure.
Sure did.
So you said you were kind of a theater girl. Were you always a performer, like even at an early age?
Yeah, I was always doing little songs and dances, and I loved The Wizard of Oz and Shirley Temple movies, and um Grease. Oh my gosh, totally one of my favorites. Um yeah, I really always loved that. I got that from my grandmother, who is the one that showed me all of those things, and she was a writer. So no one else in our family. My brother is a little bit, but he kind of hides it behind, wanting to be a millionaire. It
Fair
was
enough.
He's also extremely creative, but there's really no one else in my family that pursued any kind of artistry other than myself and my grandmother.
Awesome. So you said you were not athletic, you were not into physical things, activities. What was that moment that was like, you know what, I'm gonna be a professional wrestler?
When I saw Seth Rollins in the ring, I was like, I need to meet that guy.
There
Um,
were easier ways to meet him.
Listen, and I did the easier way too. I went to a meet and greet before, but then I went to the meet. Okay, so that's like kind of a half joke, but also the truth. Um, Seeing AJ Lee was really interesting for me because by the time that she was wrestling, I was like on television regularly. I was an emo kid, so like I was listening to Fall Out Boy. I was this like tiny, skinny Puerto Rican girl with the whole look, the chucks, all of it. And I saw her. I only had remembered seeing, Trish Stratus and like more bombshells, even though Lita was pretty edgy too. But
Hmm.
AJ Lee, like I was like, oh, I kind of she we don't resemble each other, but I'm like, oh, I can see myself in this
Right.
person. And so then I was like, that's cool. So I started watching just more and more and more. I see Seth Rollins. I'm like, I want to meet that guy. I go to meet and greet for a Royal Rumble that was happening in Philly. 2015 it had to be, I think. If I'm
Yeah.
wrong, my
Yep.
bad. Um, and I was in line, met him, super, super, super nice. And I was like, I don't want to be in line to meet a wrestler. I want to be like on the other side of the table. And that was a big moment for me where I was like, I'm gonna figure out how to do this.
I
And then
love
I
that.
did.
That's I love that answer. That's wonderful. That spark kind of leads to the next chapter, which is stepping into a wrestling ring and going to wrestling school.
Yeah.
You trained at, I mean, probably the creme de la creme in the Northeast. I mean, the legendary Monster Factory.
Yeah.
How did you find your way there?
Um, Google is your friend. I literally Googled how to become a pro wrestler. Oh, you go to, it was a Wiki How. Like, those where you get like the instructions.
Yeah.
Find a wrestling school. And I was like, what? So I looked up like how to find a wrestling school. Where is there a wrestling school close by? And Chikara popped up, and the Monster Factory popped up. And Danny Cage, the former owner of the Monster Factory, he had a very cohesive website and like with the videos, what to expect when you train, what it's going to look like, what's expected of you, what a tryout's going to look like. He had all of this information. I don't know if you can find those videos anywhere, but they're very beneficial to me because, like I said, I was very scared of it.
Yeah.
So that felt more like, oh, okay, I can do this because I can see it, I can visualize it, and I feel confident. Whereas Chikara was a little more not secretive, I would say, but there was just less information. There was just mostly
Right.
just text on what a 12-week program would cost, which was pretty expensive for 12 weeks. And at the time I thought that it was like a hard 12 weeks. And now that I'm in wrestling, I know it's never a hard 12 weeks where you're kicked out.
Right.
But Danny had like a $5,000 lifetime tuition as well. So there was just and it was also not that it wasn't even closer. It was over the bridge. Chikara was up the road from me, but I chose the Monster Factory because I felt like there was more information about it, and the tuition was just like I couldn't say no to that.
Yeah, for sure. Like I said, the Monster Factory has that aura about it too. It's pumped out so many professional wrestlers that have gone to that next level. What does day one look like for little Gabby walking into the famed Monster Factory?
Do you want to know like tryout day or first
Yeah,
day of
yeah.
training? Okay.
Try out day.
I walk in and everybody was stretching and they were doing like sort of a downward dog. So everyone's ass was in my face as soon as I walked in, which was quite poignant given the rest of my career. But and then one of the guys was like, "This is her first like introduction to wrestling. Is this?" And I just was laughing. And then I got in and they were like, "All right, do run with everybody? Okay, that's easy enough. Go into the ring. We want to see how you run the ropes. We want to see what you look like taking a bump. We want to see you taking a flip bump, which I could not do. I had to be what's what I'm looking for, assisted. Look at
Hmm.
hip toss. Someone give me a hip toss.
Right.
And so Danny pulled us aside and he was like, I don't know about this. You used to have to try out for the Monster Factory, and he would turn people away. But
Right.
then that policy was sort of abolished, and he was more of an open. It was more of an open door situation, which like I was like into and not into because you get to meet a lot of more interesting people, but there's a lot of people that just
Shouldn't be there.
yeah. Not, I mean, I think there's a spot for everybody, but like he was
Yeah.
very strict about who would be allowed into the school. I've seen people get turned away.
Right.
Um, and he was so he was like, I'm just not sure about this. He's like, but I did just accept Miranda Vanette, and her name was the MV, and she was really really great. She's a cop now and she has a kid, so her life is. She actually just posted like a couple days ago that she was missing wrestling, and I was like, I knew you were gonna come back. Okay, retirement. And so and he was like, I think that you two could work together because I don't really have other women. But he's like, I don't know if you're totally cut out for this. And then
Right.
I was like, well, that's too bad, but I really think you should accept me. into your school. And he did. And yeah, I sort of had to advocate for myself and tell him why. But then we had like a very serious conversation about like our personal lives for the first time I'm meeting this guy. And it wasn't supposed to be that, but it sort of turned into that. And like,
Right.
yeah, then he accepted me, and that's became my home.
I love that. And advocating for yourself, I feel like it might be that common thread throughout your career. So
Yeah.
you started it early. What's something about wrestling training that might have just completely surprised you?
um how much more it hurts than actually wrestling on like a match.
Yeah.
There's something so like weird about training that is more painful than any match I've ever had. um you would think it'd be like a little bit more dialed back. No, it's crazier, but that's how it should be,
Yeah.
like, because it prepares you.
For sure. For sure. There's no adrenaline to get you through training.
Yeah.
Who are some of the early mentors? Obviously, you just spoke about one, but who are some of the early mentors that really had an impact on you? You know, maybe more so in the beginning of your career.
Yeah, totally. Blue Meanie was big. He did it. He taught me a lot of stuff in ring, but mostly what he taught me was outside of the ring stuff. Being kind,
Yeah.
compassionate, different, being yourself. So he taught me a lot of that stuff. I love him. QT Marshall, he taught me all of the chaining that I know. He taught me character. He taught me almost everything. And Damian Priest was my
Okay.
main coach, and he, I mean, ever like I said, him and QT Luis, sorry, Damian and QT taught me everything that I know about professional wrestling. And I'm so unbelievably grateful for them because I got in at like the right time, right
Yeah.
before the Nightmare Factory opened and he moved to Georgia, QT, right
Right.
before Damien became Damien, and he was just still just a coach that volunteered his time. He didn't get paid,
Right.
just to be with us, just to be around wrestling. And that's my coach. Like that's the coolest. That's so cool. Like, he's the man. He never ever gave up on me, and even when I wanted to give up on me, but he's not like sentimental or like he's a hard ass.
Right.
And I remember there was one point when I didn't think I was ready to do anything in the ring, but he wanted me to be his manager. And I think about
Wow.
that now, and I want to die because I could have been his manager. I like that's like one of my biggest regrets in my career, saying I don't think I'm ready to be your manager yet. But yeah, that was, I think about that. I talked to him about that too. He's like, "Yeah, you're an idiot."
Yeah.
And I was like,
Don't.
"No, it's good." He was like, "No, you were dumb for that."
Yeah, no, you're dumb. Yeah, I
Yeah,
like that. You got. I mean, you need that tough love sometimes.
yeah,
And I'm glad you brought up QT and Damien. Obviously, that was probably during Punishment Martinez days. No,
yeah,
so that leads me to you. You start your training at the Monster Factory again, a top notch wrestling school, but you also got some training in at the ROH dojo. Is that right?
yeah.
How did that opportunity come about?
So it's sort of I'm gonna try to give you an abridged version. One night at training at the Monster Factory, we were setting up the ring, and Cheeseburger was there, and he's gonna be on the show like the next day, I think. But he was there helping us set up because he's the man. And then he gets a call or a text saying, "I'm completely lying to you." Okay. My ex, LSG, he got the call and the text from someone at the Ring of Honor dojo that someone got a concussion and wouldn't be able to do the Stardom seminar they were going to have the next day. And they needed a body, and did he know anybody? And of course, we were dating. So he was like, "Yeah, my girlfriend Gabby, she would be perfect for it." I did not fit the criteria. You had to have been wrestling for a year at least. You had to have been training for at least a couple, like this amount of months. You had
Right.
to, all these the criteria you had to meet. And they're like, "We just need a body," because there's an even amount of girls because each
Right.
girl's we're gonna have matches and stuff. So we had to be evenly matched. And he comes up to me and he's like, "What do you think? What do you want to do?" And I was like, "I don't know, man." Another instance of me being like, "I'm not ready."
Right.
So dumb. Just getting in the way of my own, my own success. And so that's when Burger comes in and he goes, "You have to do it." He's like,
Love it.
It's okay that you don't fit the criteria. It's not about that. They just need somebody there, and you'll get some.
Right.
You'll learn a lot. It'll be good for you." And I was like, "Okay." Luckily, I had gear made already because I was ready for that. But like, um, so I come in, and before things even start with the tryout, they go, "Who can go to Japan and who can't go to Japan for 2 months?"
Wow.
I went to the I can't go because at the time, I'm the executive assistant to the mayor of Philadelphia, Jim Kenney. That's my
Wow.
job. That's not some like, oh, I work at, like, not saying that these aren't real jobs, like working at Best Buy or working at
Yeah.
like Target. Those are very real jobs, but
Slightly different.
it's a little different. I was
Yeah.
salaried, I had health insurance. I was very much a part of the administration. And so I said I couldn't. And then so LSG comes out to me and he goes, "You have to get to the other side of the building." And I was like, "For what?" And he's like, "You have to say that you can go to Japan for 2 months." And I was like, "I can't." He's like, "You have to figure it out." I was like, "What is going on?" So I go over to the other side of the room. Sumi Sakai is also telling me this as well.
Wow.
I'm
Okay.
like, what is happening right now? And so apparently the owner of Stardom, this is the Ring of Honor dojo, by the way. This is where this
Right.
is all happening. The owner of Stardom, who was there on FaceTime, he took a liking to me pretty immediately. And so I didn't know this until much later. And so I'm there, I'm like, okay, this is so weird. And then I get pulled aside into the hallway that's there. And they're like, he wants you to go to Japan. And I was like, how am I supposed to do that? Like, are you serious? Like, and then I'm like, okay. So I get back in. They announced that it was me. I had to pretend like I didn't already know. It's huge work.
Kayfabe, brother.
Cried. Yeah, I still cried like for real because I'm like, how am I supposed to explain this to my boss? He's gonna kill me. And they already were like, I wasn't their first pick. I was picked by Jim Kenney, the mayor.
Right.
Everyone else who was picked by like the campaign staff. So they didn't want me there. I was already like not welcomed by most of the people. But I'm the only one that stayed for the whole 8 years, by the way.
Wow.
So crazy. And so I get picked, and then one of the big things that I had to do was start training at the Ring of Honor dojo to prepare myself to go there and to prepare myself for wrestling in Ring of Honor because they wanted to introduce me
Right.
as like their new big person, the new girl going to Stardom with the first Stardom Women of Honor acquisition, Gabby Ortiz. So I started training there, and I ended up really loving training there because Delirious is an incredible trainer. Burger was also training. Sumi Sakai was training, and it was much more intimate, less people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is fantastic. That story was so much better than I could have even anticipated. And I mean, that laid the foundation for something incredible, obviously, your
Yeah.
trip to Japan. First off, I got to know the ending. How did you make it out of your work commitments and over to Japan before we even go any further?
So you know how I said they all hated me at my job? That might have been a bit of an exaggeration. They were very happy for me because they knew I had been training to be a wrestler
Right.
before I even got that job. They knew that was something that I was doing. They knew that was why I wasn't going to happy hours. They knew that I was very dedicated to that. And I didn't know that they really knew that. I didn't know that was something that was talked about. I didn't know that a lot of the reason that they didn't that they weren't super happy with me being there is because they were like, well, she wants to be a pro wrestler. She doesn't really want to be here. Which wasn't true. I loved my job. As I said, I was the only person out of all these people that were there the entirety of the eight years that he was the mayor.
Right.
And so I was so nervous. I went up to my boss and I told him the situation. And I was like, I was not expecting this. And if I have to say no, I'll say no. I understand. And they were like, Jimmy has to sign off on it. My boss, Jim Kenny. But we imagine he will because he really likes you. And I've known him forever. And they were like, we can't pay you. You'll have to take a leave of absence for 2 months.
Right.
And I was like, if that's what it takes, cool. And then they signed, Jim Kenny signed off on it, gave me a big hug before I left. And yeah,
That's
it was
amazing.
really nice. Yeah.
That is fantastic. When you finally do make it over there, what was the biggest adjustment for you? Not only wrestling in Japan, but obviously living in Japan for 2 months.
Mhm. I never went to college. That was another way I sold it to my boss and my coworkers. Like, I never got to go to college, so this is like almost like me getting to go study abroad for college or something.
Yeah.
Not that that mattered, but I needed to have like selling points for me,
Yeah, I get it.
and why I should go. So and so um I first got there. I had never been that far away from home for that long, and I had a rough first week. I did, adjusting to just having roommates, adjusting to the time difference, adjusting to not being in my safe space. But then once I did, I really quite loved it. I love the culture of Japan. It's very their culture is based in mindfulness of others, which is
Right.
not. I live in Philadelphia, man. It's every man for yourself
I
here.
get it. I get
But
it.
my general disposition is like wanting to be kind and mindful of others around me and being polite and stuff. So I was finally with people that I felt like I related to in that way. A whole
Right.
culture and country of people. I love that even more than the wrestling sometimes.
I love that. When it comes to the wrestling, and obviously everybody kind of has the same stock answer, but how did the Japanese crowds differ even from the indie crowds before you went and after you came back? How are those Japan crowds different?
I only knew I'd only wrestled in front of people 3 times in America.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is wild.
So I'm obviously so nervous and crazy that like I don't even really remember what those crowds were like. So I go to Japan and then that becomes the crowd that I get used to because I had 12 matches over there. 10, I think. Yeah, 10 or 12 matches. I forget which one. And so that becomes the crowd I get used to. And I remember being like, oh, they're a lot quieter than American crowds. But
Right.
I didn't really get that impression. I got the impression that they were just as claps,
Right.
cheers. Like, I mean, maybe it's not as aggressive as Americans are, but like
For sure.
they're definitely they're definitely not sitting on their hands.
Right. That was
Yeah.
exactly what I was going to say. They've gotten that rap of like they want to sit on their hands until you do these huge spots, but
Yeah.
it's not what I've picked up. Obviously, coming back from Japan, you had a ton of momentum. You really break into the indie scene here back in the States, and you start winning championships for the Monster Factory, for ECWA. What did that first championship title mean to you? Because obviously it's the independence and it's a championship, but what did it mean to you personally, that first title?
Well, I only had that title for like a few hours. It was it was at the ECWA Women's Super 8,
Right.
and as the tournament was progressing, the the championship was going along with it. So the first match, the original champion, she lost it to Scarlett Bordeaux, and then I wrestled Scarlett Bordeaux, and I win it off of her. And then I wrestle Quinn McKay, who is Kelly Kincaid at NXT now. I wrestle her, and she beats it off me. So it changed hands 3 times that night. So that was my first title. Was just I had it for a couple hours. There's nothing. There's nothing about my career that's like anybody else's.
I am starting to realize that, Gabby.
Like it's not. I did not have a conventional go at it.
That is, yeah, okay, we'll go with that. Yes.
Hey, you. Yeah, watching this right now. I see you. If you're enjoying what you're watching, I've got one quick favor to ask, and it only takes a second, costs you nothing, and makes a huge difference. If you could go ahead and hit that like button, maybe drop a comment. If you haven't already, make sure you're subscribed. Doesn't seem like much, but for small creators, it's everything. So let's help more people find this channel and keep the content coming. And honestly, I'm pretty sure the podcast will be really grateful. So if you're having fun, you like what you see, make it official, click those buttons, and the Fans View podcast, we'll see you next time.
What was your first, let's rephrase that question.
First actual title
What was
reign.
your first long title reign? What did that mean to you, that a company had that kind of faith in you to put their title on you?
It felt amazing, specifically because it was the Monster Factory.
Right.
It's technically called the Girls Championship, but people don't like that. But that's not their decision. The Monster Factory Girls Championship, and it was a big deal for me because I knew it was something that like Danny and Damien and QT had a say in.
Right.
But the biggest deal was Danny, like, you know, him putting the belt on me, because he did not want me to wrestle. He wanted me to be an announcer. He wanted me to be a backstage interviewer. He wanted me to be a timekeeper. He wanted me to be a manager. He really did not think that I was cut out to wrestle. He will not tell you this, but it is true. And that's okay, because you need to face a little bit of adversary. So finally, when Ring of Honor and Stardom took interest in me, that's when he was like, oh yeah, you're on our shows all the time now, forever and always. And I'm like, okay. But then it was very much like, okay, this is him actually like co-signing me as a professional wrestler, is putting this title on me. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, and I mean, if you just look at your career on a list, it really seems like right around that time might have been a turning point for you, where you seem to have kind of found yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously you are the gift of gab. Where does that come from? You said you're like the shy, you know, little timid theater girl to start with. Like, where does the gift of gab come from?
All right. I wouldn't use the word shy. I wasn't necessarily shy. But I was just like a scared kid. But I'd make it very known to everybody. Like, it was, these weren't like little crash was just like, give me that! Wasn't shy. I don't shut up. Like, it's not really a thing of like, look at me, I'm a gift. It's no, I literally have the gift of gab. I sometimes do not know when to be quiet. But it also works in sort of a in a moniker way as well in professional wrestling.
For sure.
But it's quite literal.
Well, I love that. Hey, they say the best pro wrestlers are themselves turned up to 1,000. So I mean, you're doing it right. Do you enjoy the performance, like you said, that wrestling moniker persona, like that style, and the fan interaction as much as you do maybe the in-ring work?
Yeah, I definitely, in-ring work is my biggest challenge in wrestling, which obviously is a huge aspect of it. But I have managed to make it work and to like get far enough with my athletic ability that I had to learn how to have in my 20s, which is, you know, most people do athletics. They start when they're in kindergarten, t-ball and stuff. And but I've managed to keep it going as long as I have because of my character and my ability to cut a promo at a moment's notice. Those are my skills.
Yeah, for sure. Skills, yeah. And I mean, I think you've done pretty well so far. I think you're on the right track.
Yeah.
How do you balance, before we move on, how do you balance like Gabby the human being and Gabby Ortiz the performer?
That's a tough one, and I'm still learning. I told you before we got on that like this year's been like kind of weird for me.
Yeah.
Because this has been the year of how do I balance that? Like, what do I, and I mean, I've been around for a long time, so that lesson comes back to you in different ways throughout the years. It's like, how do you balance? Like there was at one point when I was like working at this gay club called Woody's every weekend. I was trained to be a pro wrestler, and I was working with the mayor's office. So there was no balancing going on there. This was like, I have to make it work where I can make it work, you know?
Right.
and that put me that first job put me through wrestling school. That's what I had. That's why I kept it, so I could pay for my tuition.
Right.
Um, so yeah, it's still a lesson to be learned. And I create new skills and new ways, but I couldn't tell you that I am an expert quite yet.
I
So
love that. I really appreciate the honesty in that too. How do you stay? Obviously, independent wrestling is not glitzy, it's not glamorous whatsoever. How do you
mhm.
stay motivated with all the travel, the physical demands on your body? What is it today that still keeps you motivated to keep doing this?
You're gonna sound crazy. You're gonna think I sound crazy, but the glitz and the glam of it all, like my new wrestling gear and the new looks I can do, and the big performance of it all, and the gorgeous George of it all.
Love it.
Despite the grittiness of it, there's so much, and there's so much more to it that I love. And then being able to explore this side of myself that I didn't know existed. You know
For
of being
sure.
a little bit more rough and tough, and doing scarier things and jumping from the top rope. And I, like, when I was a kid, I wouldn't even go into like a tube down a hill, down a hill, like the tubing for.
Right.
I wouldn't even do that. I didn't go on log flume rides because I was too scared. And now I'm like jumping off the top rope, to someone moving out of the way, and I fall flat on my face. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
I would have never imagined that. So it's like the thing of it that I love, which is the performance and the design of it and all that, plus the things that I didn't know I would love,
Right.
like the daredevil part of it, and the acrobatics of it and stuff. Yeah.
I love that. Something as we start to wind this thing down. Something that I was very excited to get your thoughts on is the fact that obviously, as a woman, as a Latina woman in professional wrestling, representation is important to a lot of people.
hmm
You're also a big advocate for the gay and trans community. How important is it for you to be that out front face, that representation for people who might feel minimized in a
hmm
in a place like professional wrestling?
it's not something that was like a choice in a way.
Right.
I came in knowing that those were my values. I told you earlier I worked at a gay club called Woody's in Philadelphia. That's not something that I applied for. My mom was best friends with the owner of that club. He still owns the club with his brother. Um, and so he was looking out for me and gave me a job. My godparents are a gay man and a lesbian woman who fell in love and got married. So, my best friend in the entire world of 20 years, her name is Nadia. She wrote my entrance music. She's a lesbian. And the closest friends that I've made in this business are the LGBTQ community. Um, my mom worked for a councilman. This is how I sort of everything, comes together. She worked for a councilman named Angel Ortiz out here, who I still consider family. He is the person who fought in the 80s during the height of the HIV and AIDS epidemic. He fought for June to be Pride Month in Philadelphia. He went on television shows and debated with bigots and awful people, to make sure that there's representation for this community within our city. And that was my upbringing.
I love
It
that.
was never like, oh, I at one point I didn't agree with this and then I came around to it. I was born into this. Like, I was born into the advocacy and the grassroots of fighting for not just LGBTQ folk, but um, marginalized community throughout. I remember one time there was a protest going on, and my uncle, the councilman, got arrested for protesting, and we had to go pick him up from from the jail. Like, these are the people that raised me.
I love that.
So it's obviously I've learned more and more and more about representation and about the community as I've gotten older, and I've been more involved in that way. But I will say that I came in with knowledge and compassion for that, um,
Right.
already.
I love that, and I definitely I wanted to make a point to make sure you had that platform to talk about that. And obviously you're very strong in your beliefs. You know, being a role model is not something that you take lightly. Being an advocate is not something you take lightly. I wanted to bring up something that's not so much fun to talk about sometimes. Obviously you have OnlyFans. You do the content creation, stuff like
Mhm.
that. You're comfortable with your body, things like that. Um, Recently released professional wrestler from WWE, Danny Palmer, AJ Amrine. She had some wild things to say, and I would
Sure.
love to get your opinion on it. I'm
Let's
just
hear
gonna
it.
read her. I'm gonna read her quote because I don't want to, I don't want to paraphrase. So she said, and I quote: "Doing OnlyFans is not women's empowerment. It's sick, twisted, and evil. OnlyFans is marketed as women taking control of their bodies, but when you look closer, it's not empowerment at all. It's a trap. It's slavery. Slavery to attention, to validation, to never feeling like you're enough. True freedom doesn't come from selling pieces of yourself to the highest bidder." Those are some tough words.
I
I
think they're
would.
really dumb, actually. I don't think they're tough at all.
Gabby, the floor is yours.
I think that is just such a,
You can
it's,
curse.
okay. I know that it's scary for women to think that other women are okay with this. I want to know, what do we colloquially call this industry? It's the business. What's
Right.
a business for? To make money. Like, I am sorry, that's how I make my money. That's how I bought my house. That's how I take care of my father. That's how I take care of myself. And you know what? I'm okay with that. I have a good time doing it. I have created a cool little niche group of people that care about me, that are kind to me, that I get to talk to. And when someone says like, "Oh, you're selling your body," who isn't? Who isn't? There are people going every day, clocking into an extremely laborious, difficult job. They work outside my house. There were like very dangerous things, making money doing that. Is that not selling their body? Their arm could get cut off. I'm not in danger of that. You know, my job couldn't be more safe in terms of my OnlyFans. And I think that it is so ridiculous. Like, okay, for example, I don't agree with right-wing pundits. I don't think that they are correct. I don't agree with their viewpoints. I would never do their job. Do I understand why they do their job? Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. I get it. It's the opposite of what I would ever want to do.
Right.
Um but I get it, and I would never like look down on somebody for the way that they want to feed their families. Um, and also, I have a good time. I have fun doing it. I don't feel like I'm a slave. That's really offensive, actually. I meant to bring that part up. A slave? Who is
I,
this?
that was
I'm not even being funny. Like, who is
She
this?
was Danny Palmer in WWE. She was, yeah.
I don't know who that is. I really don't. And like, I just wish people would understand that if when you get in the ring and you bump, you're selling your body. Everybody in the ring, everybody in that space is looking at you and your body.
Agreed.
And it's okay. It's totally cool. So if that's what she believes, she doesn't ever have to do it. And you know, cool for her. That's it's just I hope one day that she sort of comes to the realization that her values don't have to be so cruel to other people, honestly.
I
Yeah,
respect it. I
I think
respect it.
that those are my thoughts on that.
I love it, and that's why I asked you. I knew I would get an honest answer, and hey, you definitely delivered that. And speaking of that honesty, I do believe that's the Philly in you that just has to be honest 100% of the time. This is the most important. We're getting there. This is the most important question of the interview, bar none. This is what's going on all the social medias. Where is the go-to cheesesteak in Philly?
I'm actually looking for it still.
Oh,
It used to
okay.
be this spot called Del Rossi's, but they sort of I don't like seeded rolls, and that's becoming
Okay.
like a big thing in Philly right now is seeded rolls. Seeded rolls to me, like they get very almost stale tasting quickly, but people like that because it helps with the integrity of the cheesesteak.
Right.
But I like a disgusting, like greasy, just ball of meat and cheese and bread in my hand. I don't need there to be integrity in it. So I it used to be Del Rossi's, which they're still very good. I don't know what my new place is. I'm looking.
Okay. All
I'm
right.
still
Fair
looking.
enough. I love the passion, though. The passion that comes out when you talk about OnlyFans and cheesesteaks. I mean,
Hell
it's
yeah.
second to none. I love it.
They've given me so much joy. I don't know.
Hey, and who am I to judge? I
Yeah.
love it. And last two questions that I really enjoy. These are my favorite two questions to ask everyone. The first one is, what are you a fan of outside of professional wrestling?
Oh, I love cartoons. I
Love
love
that.
stuffed animals. I'm still very much a kid in that way. 30 Rock is my favorite television show of all time. I love my dad. I love a wrestler named Wonder Boy Brian Morris. I love doing my makeup and my hair. Yeah.
I love that. I love that so much. And last but not least, uh, obviously you've had what some
Oh, and
people would
Fall Out
call.
Boy. I
Oh,
love
of
Fall Out Boy.
course, of
Favorite
course.
band, greatest band. They're the greatest people. I would die for them. If that wrestler Wonder Boy Brian Morris or Fall Out Boy were hanging off a cliff and I could only save one, I would say Fall Out Boy every time. And he knows this.
That's that Philly honesty, guys. We can't even be mad at it. And don't forget your Phillies. We can't forget your Phillies.
Phillies, yes.
I think
And the
the
birds,
Eagles.
go birds.
I was about to say I think the Eagles play in about an hour, so I got to hurry this
Yes.
thing up. Finally, last but not least, obviously you have reached some sentiment of success so far in your career. But at this stage of your career, and not just your career, but your life, you're obviously still a young woman. How do you define success?
I define success when all the people that are around you can depend on you. And they can depend on you very like confidently. I think that's success.
I like
Yeah.
that. I like that. And we are going to close on that. Gabby, this was a blast. This was a year plus in the making and so worth every minute. Tell the people before I let you go, though, what do you have going on? I know you got a big show coming up next weekend.
I have a big show. I'm wrestling Becca Wiley for belt to belt at the Monster Factory's annual Turkey Slam at the 2300 Arena here in Philadelphia, also known as the ECW Arena.
Love it. Love it. And plug those socials. Where can people get a hold of you? And
Sure.
plug that OnlyFans, girl. Make that money.
I appreciate that. So you can find me at Gabby, Gabbity, on Twitter and X or Instagram, or at Gabby Ortiz on TikTok. And my OnlyFans is under the name Gabby O, but you can find it in my link trees that are all over my bios on those other sites.
Love it. Suck it, Danny Palmer. Anywho, Gabby, like I said, I'm so glad we could finally make this work, and hopefully we could have you on again sometime down the road.
Let's do it.
Guys, make sure you go follow her on Twitter, X, whatever, Elon, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all the socials. And if you're so disposed, go hit up the OnlyFans. God bless. And don't forget, guys, most importantly, call your mom.
If you haven't liked or subscribed, you're going to be joking me.